Thanks, Wade. Hello to everybody here and then also online. My name is Matt Tweemeyer. I'm the Solution Engineer Team Lead for the California Regional Office of Esri. So those of you who know me, I've been SE for Santa Clara County for the last, I would say, 6 years. And then my team helps manage the Northern California area, but then also California, Nevada, and Hawaii. So you know some of my other colleagues at Esri. And then also your account manager, Sandy McDaniel, is not here, or sorry, Sandy Hirth is not here, but she's also part of our account team. So we're here to help you deploy Esri software. And in this case, today I'm talking about using it for creating a more resilient society. And I'm going to be talking it's almost like a part two of the talk that I did last year for GIS Day, Santa Clara County, when it was talking about GeoAI. So we go to the next one here. So in this case, last year I talked about GIS, and so we have that. Then we also have AI assistance. So I want to get into the definition. So GeoAI is advancing the science of GIS with AI models, tools, and techniques to automate data extraction at scale and uncover valuable insights faster than ever, using your own templates or using Esri's templates. So I'll show some of them, but we have over 100 now of pre-trained AI models within the Living Atlas website. So if you've never been to Esri's Living Atlas website, there are a series of templates in there. Not only do they describe how the AI models work, but then what software is required, what data is required, et cetera. So essentially holding your hand, being able to help you get those deployed. Generally, you just use Pro, and most of the time, just Pro and like Image Analyst extension. And then some of them, you might be interacting with ArcGIS Align or ArcGIS Enterprise, depending on if you have your own hosted image services or you're using imagery hosted within the ArcGIS Align environment. I'm going to dive a little bit more into what we've been working on in the last year. On the right side, so AI assistance. So this has been evolved. We've got a new team. We've moved some of our product managers around to jump into the AI, let's say generative AI kind of area where we're creating a more natural and intuitive experience within the ArcGIS system, which will allow you to be able to get questions answered, utilize our software better, and be able to utilize it, especially if you have new users or your power users that you've been using ArcGIS for a long time. So just to go into GeoAI, so what's possible, you have a lot of different data types, being able to pull that in and then being able to run and be able to use unstructured text data, et cetera, 3D video data, and then being able to use like vector, tabular, and time series data. And really with GeoAI, it's extracting and generating data off of that data or analyzing it, utilizing an AI model. And we see it used a variety of things. I'm going to talk a little bit later why it replies to the theme today of resiliency is like there's a lot of use cases you can use it for public safety or public health, et cetera. And we're seeing that. Not only did we already see examples of that earlier today, and we've seen it from the county, but we're seeing it across the United States around, different workflows. A lot of it, you could say public safety oriented like fires, et cetera, which are very, normal here in California. So that's one of the biggest things. And so where do you find these tools? And I kind of said this earlier, is you kind of get the codeless experience, which is essentially machine learning, which is part of the AI story, is built into a lot of our spatial tools within the ArcGIS Pro and ArcGIS Align, ArcGIS Enterprise platform. So those of you that might not want to jump in and like take the training model and actually be able to extract it and do a lot of different manual coding, et cetera. There are tools within the environments that we have right now that do machine learning techniques and allow you to be able to do, it could be analyzing data over time. It could be finding patterns within a lot of data. All of those are built into our spatial analytical tools within ArcGIS Pro, ArcGIS Enterprise, ArcGIS Align. And then, like I said before, we have AI infused capabilities. So we build models. We have this like tree extraction model, but we also are building it into Survey 123 and other applications, which you'll see in a second. So some of the codeless options, ArcGIS Pro, Spatial Analyst, Image Analyst, 3D Analyst. And then on the other side, you have notebooks, Python API. That's where if you go to those pre-trained models, you're going to see a Python notebook that allows you to be able to pull in your data, be able to run these type of models on the data that you have. And again, it kind of walks you through. It doesn't just give you and just be like, okay, go ahead. It actually runs you through what data inputs you're going to need and what outputs you're expecting. So within the machine learning part of the GeoAI tools, just to cover again for everybody that didn't see my talk last year, like it's all about extracting features. So we talked about the imagery program that Yoko's team leads. That imagery can be used to extract features from the LiDAR, from the imagery that is purchased through a cycle of purchases where they get a certain amount of flyovers per year, to be able to utilize it for change detection, fires, and being able to look at different changes in the environment, detect anomalies, find patterns, et cetera. So there's a lot of different ways that you can run these data models on those particular imagery acquisitions that you get. And so kind of diving into the part two of, bouncing off of my talk last year, the biggest shift we are having is that you're seeing AI, you're seeing it on TV, you're seeing it in, on your computers and your email or online where, a lot of companies are talking about AI and what does that mean. So I'm going to talk about how we're using AI at Esri, and we're kind of going about it in a very methodical, very conservative, conscious approach of how we're integrating AI. So we're not building an AI like you see ChatGPT or Azure or AWS. We're not building like an actual repository that you would use. We're building their tools into ours, so it allows the platform to be more usable. So you could see some of the examples on the slides here, but some of you might be, already seeing some of this, or you saw some of it at the user conference this year, or at other events that we've put on. But you've started to see some of these examples. We first unveiled it this past year at the Fed UC with the DC open data site, and then we also have Survey 123 where it's starting to create forms for people by just prompting it to create questions, et cetera. So I'll get into those details, but we're building it across the platform into different applications. So the first one, which I think a lot of us that utilize ArcGIS have questions about the software, like how do I do this, how do I do that, how do I license it, how do I get access to this tool? Well, we're building AI into the ArcGIS Pro documentation site, which I think is really useful. So we're starting to build in an actual, by 2025, we're going to have it where you can ask an AI like, hey, I'm looking for this tool, where is it? Or hey, I'm trying to do this analysis, what tool should I use? It's probably going to put me out of work, honestly. I'm probably solution engineers are probably going to have to find a different role because it'll start to answer questions that we get from you guys. But it's to help people get on that website and be able to answer those questions. So you can see here, this is going to be the prompt. So it'll be able to help you navigate. You can ask a question, it'll give you an answer, and it should help you with our documentation site. Our documentation site is very, very detailed, and in certain products, some products not, but it's going to help you find those particular URLs that you are looking for that might be nested in 20 pages because you have a particular unique aspect of how you deploy our software with your agency or how you use ArcGIS. Because obviously we have a lot of users and there's a lot of different products. So this should be able to help people navigate that website a little bit better than, like I said, just kind of navigating the current one. So it's going to help out a lot with that. So it's going to come out here soon. And then the next one, which I think a lot of people are going to be happy with, is that we're building it into ArcGIS Pro. So there's going to be an ArcGIS Pro assistant that's going to allow you to do questions with the AI. You already have the ability to use the search tool now that allow you to search tools, and you also can turn on what we call the semantics setting, which allows it to kind of guess what you're trying to ask of it, or at least try to guess the tool. So there are settings now that can help you navigate and find the necessary tools. We have a lot of people that get in and go, okay, where's the global IDs tool? Where's the tool that I need to, authorize this database, et cetera? This will be able to help even more by actually asking it a question. So you can now have it add a layer, zoom into a layer, et cetera. So it's actually going to be able to do things by you just being able to type into the prompt. So we're providing that. It's going to be in private beta here at the end of this year, and we should see a lot more as we get into user conference next year in July. So you can see an example right here of the prompt being able to pull in and be able to have a query right here. But essentially, we're going to be able to have an experience, like I said, to be built in and ask questions of the AI. And then at the same time, this is an example, and I think I should be able to play the video. This gentleman from our product team is going to show you. So this is the map, the new map viewer. It is built into obviously you see in ArcGIS Online, it's also part of ArcGIS Enterprise. So you soon will be able to utilize the AI assistant to be able to interact with the map viewer within these portals, which a lot of us use to make applications. And so you'll see here in a second, he's going to be able to demonstrate how you're going to be able to, and I'm sorry, there's no audio, but he's going to be able to demonstrate how you're going to be able to use the AI assistants to change the feature layers. So yeah, right here. So he's doing an arcade expression, but you'll be able to utilize the arcade expression, but then also be able to help. All right. Just make sure we stay on time so we keep moving forward. Okay, let me get to the next one. So the next one is Survey 123. I think this was a big one. Some of it, whoops, I went too far. Some of it, this is something you've seen. So it's a creation assistant. So this is something where you would log into the ArcGIS Online environment. So it's not enterprise, but this is the ArcGIS Online environment because it's connected to our Azure and AWS AI assistants. So you'll be able to log in and you'll be able to say, hey, I want to make this survey 123. I have these questions. Can you build it? And it will build it for you. And I think it's great because you can kind of use it as a starting point and then you can build off of it and it will save you a matter of minutes, if not hours, if you have a complex form. So you can at least start off by saying, hey, I need to, create a survey for damage assessment. Hey, I need to create a survey for, it could be anything for asset management or tree inventory, et cetera. So you can kind of start with it and it will create the questions for you and be able to list the things without you having to go and click all the buttons. So it's nice that it's actually going to create a form for you, and then you can go in and edit it and again build off of it. The next thing is it's going to be able to look at looking at extraction of data. So looking at calculating, in this case, it's a license plate number. We're seeing this a lot where we have public safety or we have other agencies that need to use license plate numbers or some kind of code reader. So we're going to have that built in as well. The next one is business analyst. So this one, if you have business analysts as part of our kind of BI tools within the ArcGIS Online and ArcGIS Enterprise environment, most of the people use ArcGIS Online, the business analyst kind of web app. And so within the web app, we're going to have the ability to have the same kind of prompt of help me, especially somebody that might not be a GIS professional, somebody that needs help being able to say, hey, I want to run this suitability analysis or I want to run this drive time analysis within the map. Hey, give me these buffers of 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 8 minutes, and it would be able to calculate that. You can see here, the assistant will provide suggestions and will provide the way to be able to customize what you're asking of the AI assistant, which I think is great because it'll help people, especially people that maybe didn't go to school for geography, you don't necessarily have that spatial kind of geography first mindset, where somebody maybe that is in a department that is slowly starting to learn how to use GIS tools. This will be very helpful when they're saying, okay, I want to do this, but they might not necessarily have the spatial term to be able to ask that question. They'll be able to help them out. The next one is within our Hub product. So this was shown off during the Fed UC. So in Hub Premium, what we're going to have is right now in Hub Premium, there's a beta. So essentially it allows you to have that AI assistant. So citizen comes on to your public open data set, or it doesn't matter. It might not be an open data set. You might not actually be just offering up all the data from the county or another agency. It might be something specific. The AI assistant will be able to help you search the site to be able to find information, find data, et cetera. And so that's what we showed off in the Fed UC. So you have Open Data DC was used. We have a research and development center in Washington, DC. So this made a lot of sense that we were working with them to develop. So you can see here's a prompt. So who's my representative for, it says the particular street, et cetera. And it actually finds that within the data and provides a prompt, says, hey, do you want to add the data set to the map? Do you want a location? So I could see somebody, they don't know how to navigate the website necessarily, or they want to find their parcel. Maybe they use their parcel viewer from the county, or they're coming in and it's maybe somebody that's independent that wants to grab the parcels or something. They could come in and say, I need to find this parcel. What data set is that from? And then they can go and download the data. So it does help with general, I would say, self-service. It probably will help more where people are trying to find specific information. So again, right here, you have the example of being able to ask, okay, so what are the closest schools, et cetera. So you start to see people are able to do spatial analytics within the AI assistant without necessarily having to be a GIS professional. It helps them be able to find the information they need. And you can see the tabular data right there. I think the biggest area that we're seeing people use more also is in the Microsoft environment. A lot of us use Teams. It's pretty much Teams is like life now for working in the office. So we're utilizing their natural language search within Microsoft, and Copilot is able to. So Microsoft Copilot is as you know, if you don't know, is Microsoft's Copilot assistant, right? We don't have a name for ours. We just call it AI assistant. Like I said, we're not building one like Copilot where it's going to do all these things. We kind of utilize other AIs like this Azure AI, like Copilot. So what this will do, which I think is really valuable, if I'm in the context of like a county employee here, and I might not know Yoko's team, or I might not know what kind of data I'm trying to search. I can actually ask Copilot, like, hey, where's the county map for parcels? And it would search the ArcGIS data that's available within the county to go find that item and then present it to me, the user. So it allows me to search for things, especially if I don't know if that data is readily available. So it allows you to have access, and you're kind of connecting the Microsoft Copilot and the Teams environment to your ArcGIS data, and then not just data, like apps. Like, hey, somebody goes, I'm new to the county, I need to find information on this parcel. It would go, hey, we have the parcel viewer, it's maintained, and here it is, and it actually would suggest that to the user. So I think this is really a big growth area for us, is like Copilot would be able to utilize its search engine to go and search ArcGIS. The other thing is, like, we're still seeing, as far as people using AI in general, if I'm kind of jumping out of just Esri tools, we're seeing a lot of state agencies using AI to do analytics on incidents. So I know that state agencies like CAL FIRE are starting to test and use and try to figure out how they can use AI to analyze incidents in real time and then being able to report back on that. So we're starting to see this where you're getting all this information and you're being able to utilize the AI to be able to analyze in real time. So I'm starting to see that that's not necessarily Esri technology. It's usually using like Azure or AWS, but it's something that we're continuing to see. And usually the spatial factor in there is that it'll pull in an Esri service, or at some point Esri's involved in being able to provide a location or provide a map, et cetera. So I think this is a big one. This is one of my favorite ones, just because I think this is very valuable. I use Copilot a lot. Now I'm starting to use it more in my job of like, what's the email that I need to get to first? We're finding this document, et cetera. So I start to use Copilot to go, hey, Esri, I need to figure out what's going on with this product next year. And it actually will go search that in the Esri, domain. And this is the same idea as like, there's GIS programs within the county, but then also the other agencies here, and you can search that by utilizing Copilot, et cetera, if you have it. So it's very useful, I think, in the future. When we talk about resiliency, so going back to like the first theme of the slides is like, I have GeoAI and AI assistance. So when we're talking about GeoAI and like talking about resiliency and utilizing what I've just said about what we're working on, is GeoAI can be utilized for a lot of these pre-trained models, especially when it talks about resiliency from disaster response. I mean, we had a lot of, we've had fires in the past come over the hill here in the last couple of years. So a lot of it is around damage assessment, that's being used a lot. So we saw in Maui, a lot of our teams were using imagery and the pre-trained models to figure out what the type of damage assessment was going on the beaches in Maui as far as those coastal communities. And we were doing that very quickly because our SEs were able to go in, utilize that pre-trained model and run it through whatever imagery we were able to get. Generally, we had like a contractor that was already flying that area, but we were able to at least get an initial assessment that was able to help us at least help the local communities figure out what to do. Other stuff you see there's like wildfire delineation, smoke classification, and then earlier we were talking about burn scars, flood segmentation, et cetera. So some of these relate to this area because we've had floods in the past, we've had fires in the past. So that's the biggest thing as far as resiliency I've seen. The other thing, if we're talking about like health or just in general climate, we see a lot of folks utilizing climate projections. So this is the climate mapping for resiliency and adaptation, which is part of the federal government. So being able to take different climate factors and being able to look at the climate projections for the next century, et cetera, and being able to look at that and explore that helps drive policies, helps drive change, et cetera, depending on where the community here and others want to go. So we have a lot of This is a lot of like they have a custom application that they've built that pulls in Esri information from the census, from the locals, being able to explore that and figure out, how to be able to change the population, more housing, et cetera, climate change, et cetera. So, but I think that the big thing here is like you can utilize the AI tools to be able to create outputs that actually feed into applications that allow you to create better decisions, right? And then to wrap up so that we have for questions. So when we talk about AI, like it's a buzzword. You see it all over town here. We're in Silicon Valley, so I'm sure it's like every day. It's just constant. But like for Esri, what we're trying to do as far as approaching AI, because again, we're not an AI company. We're a geospatial company. We make GIS tools. Yes, we're going to build AI into the tools, but we're trying to be incredibly transparent about it so that we're trying to be very transparent, and we want to have like a trustworthy AI that's got guardrails, so we're not going off the rails with anything. So being able to provide clear explanations, no bias, fairness, and like very much a lot of human oversight so it just doesn't go crazy, and a lot of testing and validation. So that's why you won't see us like go like way off the rails and just put something out. We're going to do it very incrementally because we want it to work, right? We don't want to just put out an AI assistant into Pro or these other apps and it just suck. And then we just have, and it just never gets off the board. We want to do it in increments. So we've built a whole team around the AI now. Those of you might know Ishmael from our product team. He used to be the Survey 123 product manager. He's now the lead of our AI team. So I'm very happy because he's awesome. And I'm very encouraged because he knows how to be able to form teams to be able to take the technology and the emerging technology and be able to figure out how it will best fit into the ArcGIS system. So I'm very encouraged that we're in the right path of like building this incrementally into our tools. And I think it's going to help in the long run as people utilize our tools more throughout the county, whether it's Pro or ArcGIS Enterprise or ArcGIS Alliance. So with that, I'll take questions.
Thank you, Matt. Any questions? Go ahead and raise your hands here on site. Oh, go ahead. Here, I'll just give.
Yeah, great presentation, Matt. Thank
Thanks.
you. I have a question about like building an Esri dashboard. Could you talk a little bit about how I might be able to configure like an AI search into a dashboard? Is that something that's on the horizon or a functionality that?
I think so. So what you'll be able to do is so we're going to build the AI assistants that will essentially help, because again, it's language model and being able to have generative answers to a question. So we're going to have that built like it's built by Esri, but in dashboards, you technically can embed an AI because you can embed a window within the dashboard and you could have it interact with it at some point. I don't know if we're there yet, but that's definitely something I could see in the future. So you have somebody say, hey, you have a question, and be able to interact with the widgets within the dashboard.
Yeah, great. So I'm just thinking about bridging your talk with Joy's earlier talk about dashboards. Sometimes dashboards can be a little overwhelming.
Oh, yeah.
And I just wonder if that's a little bit easy, if there is a future where a user could type in their question.
I think so. I think we're just doing it incrementally. So you should see a lot more next July. I just think you're seeing it in certain products, but we're trying to put it across the platform. So ArcGIS Dashboard's the product. I'm sure we're gonna see it in there. Just like that guy had that kind of map viewer. Everything's based off of like the core portal or whether it's ArcGIS on ArcGIS Enterprise, and there'll be AI built in. I can't see why not. We wouldn't have dashboards have an AI integrator in there. It's just a matter of time. And I think like I said, we're just taking it step by step, and I think you'll see it in the future for sure.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
I have a question because we're using Parcel Fabric soon, and we have lots of old like image data, TIFF data. So I was wondering if AI can help automatically identify those lines, like from raster go inside into vector into GIS lines according to their cycles or characteristics, automatically generate. Automatically goes into GIS data.
You definitely could do a classification. So yeah.
Yeah.
As far as the parcel fabric data type, that'd be very tough because it's got a very set schema, but you can absolutely take the data from raster and convert it into vector utilizing a series of inputs. Yeah.
classification.
Yes.
Like a supervised, unsupervised
Yes.
classification, use
Yeah.
AI to recognize patterns.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do
You
have
might have to
patterns,
have training models of like polygons to be able to tell the machine what it's looking for. And then as far as converting to it's just going to be more scripting. Like you take that and then based off of how that data was outputted, you would then have to run a conversion of, okay, based off of that and how because so the parcel fabric is made up of parcel types, right? And you have different types. You could take, yeah.
We can ignore parcel fabric
Yeah.
just from CAD.
Yeah.
Like a T file,
Yeah.
not log vectorized, directly into GIS data, like lines.
Yeah.
We can manually put a parcel fabric later on, but the conversion, like a vectorized process, for us is quite time consuming and
Yeah.
not cost effective.
Yeah, I could see that. I think you could train it to then input whatever your output. So you take the raster, run the model, it turns it into vector. Then that vector has to be a parcel type within the parcel fabric, right? So then if you go, okay, these, based off of how we use the the unsupervised or supervised classification, these types will go into these parcel types, and then you could QA/QC it. It's not going to be perfect, but you could create it where it would go from that to a particular parcel type. And that really depends on what you're trying to have the imagery classify. Because again, as the great thing about the parcel fabric is every county is different, so you have different types of parcel types. So you can make whatever you want, and there's no like constraints. So then you could essentially turn it into that and then QA/QC it, I think. But you'd have to set a lot of boundaries so that it wouldn't just put it into one, generic parcel type that you couldn't classify. But I'm not sure about the points and lines because you probably do polygons, but I don't know about points and lines because it's going to be, the vector's not going to be like, perfect. So I think that's the only thing, if that makes sense. Yeah.
We have a question online
Yeah.
related to, does Esri have a policy or stance on the carbon footprint of AI?
Ooh, that's a great question. We definitely want to be carbon, zero, but we're not. So that's a great question. I'm not sure. I'll have to go ask somebody. It's beyond my pay grade. But I will say that we don't make, so carbon footprint, like this area is really interesting because there's a lot of data centers being created because AI requires a lot of servers. So they're building a lot of underground, not only power, but facilities to host all these machines. That's definitely not where we're going. Like we're using other people's stuff. We're not making more data centers to essentially power that. We're generally, again, we never, like if you see Esri, like we're everywhere, but we don't try to like jump into something that we know we're not going to compete with AWS or Azure. So we're not necessarily in the business of increasing our carbon footprint by creating more data centers to make our own AI. We're using theirs. So I know that some of those agencies and some of those companies are trying to be net zero. So I think that they're trying to do that. But yeah, that's a great question. But yeah, we're not trying to create more data centers. So I would say we're definitely trying to limit our carbon footprint.
Any other questions? Oh, yeah.
So this is way out of my depth because I'm
Yeah.
more of a user. I work for the exemptions group, the assessor's office,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking about how AI would parse a data set that's only partly public record.
Yeah.
Because parts of my work are public record. Like if you wanted to see a welfare exemption claim for, random nonprofit, you could do it.
Right.
Until you got to a particular form that is not public record, which is things like rent rolls and stuff like that for low income housing.
Right.
How would you parse that kind of thing? Because you're not just doing people's codes,
Right.
but it's also particular chunks of the data. So how would you do that?
Like there's private data within the data.
Yeah, like
would
parts of it
public-
are public record and parts of it
Yeah.
are not.
Those would be I would pose those two separate data sets, and I would have this private data only searchable within the county, if it was the county, or I would only have it within the county's infrastructure, whatever that is, whether that's cloud or on-premise. So like, if the if the data needs to be public and it's never going to be shared to the public, like you just said, the role documents, I would never share those outside of the county like infrastructure. So like so if I was like, I'm going to open up an open data site and put out what we have as from the assessor's office, only what you could search there was only public data. Everything else I would have within the environment of your guys' IT systems, where I have Azure and I have Esri, and if I have the ability to search Esri for that document or Azure Copilot, they're all going to go back to that same private data at that point, whether that's a PDF or whether that's a row in a database. But you're not, I would separate those two so you don't have any risk of sharing information out that you don't want, like the role or any type of sensitive information, like ownership, right? That's what I would do. Yeah. All right. Nope.
All right, if no other questions, thank you, Matt.
Yep. Thanks, Wade. Thank you, everyone.